What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. You know what it is. Another week, another top 5 things to watch for video. This time, Giants versus Redskins. But before I hop into that, as you can see here, I posted on my Twitter a giveaway. I will be giving away a Devin Bush of the Pittsburgh Steelers autographed rookie card. It is number 3 of only 5 made with the purple border. So I'm going to be giving that away. All the instructions for the giveaway will be in this tweet. So definitely check that out if you want to take home that. One of the stipulations, of course, is once I reach 1,000 YouTube subscribers, I will be giving that away. And I want to do more giveaways going forward. I mean, I have some things that I'd love to give out to you guys. I got a pair of studio wireless headphones. I mean, maybe, I don't know, maybe that'll be a giveaway down the road. I don't know. But yeah, definitely check that out. But without further ado, let's hop into the top 5 list. Number 5. Haskins versus Jones? Now, I slated this at number 5 just because out of everything that I'm going to talk about today, this is probably the least likely of them to actually occur. Coach Jay Gruden came out and basically said that he believes that Case Keenum can lead this offense to victory. That remains to be seen. I mean, they're currently sitting at 0-3. Now, 0-3 is borderline a death sentence in the NFL. But you have to remember, we're in the NFC East, where 9-7 a lot of times can get you into the playoffs because the division is just so competitive. It would be really hard to convince me that already being 0-3, say you're down by a few scores at halftime, you don't throw Haskins out there. I mean, against statistically the worst defense in football, and don't you worry, I'm going to get into that. But it would be really hard for me to be convinced that Haskins wouldn't go out there if they were down big at half against our poor defense. So, I mean, it's up in the air at this point. It's just a matchup I'd love to see. Again, this probably will not happen, unfortunately, but just the pure speculation of potentially seeing Haskins versus Jones is one hell of a headline. Every time Case Keenum jogs off the field after an unsuccessful offensive stand, resulting in no points, you know what those Washington fans who will be at MetLife Stadium, considering how close the two teams are in location to each other, they're going to be chanting Haskins. Now, beyond that, everything just surrounding this whole situation, towards draft time. Are the Giants going to be taking a quarterback? Will it be Dwayne Haskins? Why did they take Daniel Jones over Dwayne Haskins? All of that just builds into the makings of one heck of a story. And if it's not Haskins versus Jones this week, I can almost guarantee you, if things keep up the way that they are in Washington, come the next time we face Washington later in the year, it will absolutely be Jones versus Haskins. Number 4, stopping the Blitz. As great and as dramatic as that win was last week, Daniel Jones took an absolute beating at the hands of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. The Giants allowed 5 sacks, 8.5 tackles for loss total, and worst of all, 13 quarterback hits. That is absolutely unacceptable. An asset like Jones cannot be taking 13 hits in a game, especially some of the ones that he took. On one occasion, his helmet actually got stepped on. I mean, obviously he was okay, but we cannot allow hits like that on a consistent basis. That doesn't bode well for a long career. All you have to do is take a look at Eli Manning late in his career. I'm sorry, but the Eli face is not natural. That is from years of abuse, years of just taking shots, years of not trusting your offensive line, and that is the last thing we want to happen to Daniel Jones. If a lesser quarterback like, Eli was in the ball game, I'm not entirely sure we would have been able to come out with a victory. With that amount of hits, Daniel Jones his agility got him out of the pocket and escaped other hits, but like I said, a lesser quarterback, we're not getting that win. But moving past the Tampa game and focusing on Washington, who actually sacked Mitch Trubisky 3 times last week, we need to put a focus on guys like a Montez Sweat and a Ryan Kerrigan, even a Matt Ioannidis, who's clogging up the middle, and he actually gets pressure as well from that defensive line position. Obviously, Kerrigan has been a thorn in the side of the Giants offense for a long time now, but a guy that was actually very high on my draft board and someone that I was actually hoping was going to be a Giant was Montez Sweat. So it should be very interesting to see how he performs and if we're able to slow him down. Obviously, taking nothing away from Washington, but Todd Bowles had an excellent defensive game plan against the Giants. He ran different stunts, different pass rushing schemes, and it was obviously working. Now, headed up by that was, of course, Shaq Barrett, who embarrassed Nate Solder. Absolutely embarrassed him. This week, a similar situation. A young, fast outside linebacker will most likely be over the top of Nate Solder all game. Let's just see if he can make the improvement. I do believe the offensive line will improve on their iffy week 3 performance. I believe that they will have a bounce back as a whole, and I truly hope that Nate Solder learns from that awful, embarrassing performance. Number 3, rookie in the backfield. As we all know by now, Saquon Barkley's injury will keep him out for some time. Thankfully, no surgery is required, so he's not going to be placed on IR. The outlook right now, from last that I read, was 4 to 6 weeks for the injury. He's a superhuman, though, so who knows when he'll be back. But long story short, he will be out for some time, and we need to find a replacement for him. To start off, the Giants decided to only carry 2 running backs in their backfield at the beginning of the season. Obviously, Saquon Barkley getting the bulk of the carries, and then Wayne Gallman would come in when necessary. The Giants also decided to keep Eli Penny, at the fullback position. He can kind of play running back if necessary, but he's mainly a fullback. But with Barkley going down, obviously the Giants needed to fill his slot, needed to patch that up the best they could. I actually speculated in my news video earlier this week that there might be a few guys out in free agency the Giants might consider. I mentioned a guy like Orleans Darkwa, former Giant, Jay Ajayi, and of course, maybe even a guy like Doug Martin would be able to fill that void. A lot of names were tossed around in this argument, LeGarrette Blount. Giants decided to move past all of those, and they were confident enough of a guy that is actually in their facility to fill that void. Rookie running back John Hilliman has been promoted from the practice squad and has joined the 53-man roster. You might recall his performance. The main one that obviously comes to mind is against the Bears, where he actually carried the ball 16 times for 56 yards and had a touchdown. Decent performance. I mean, overall in preseason, he looked pretty good. He had 25 carries, 80 yards, and 2 total rushing touchdowns. Averaging 3.2 yards per carry is pretty respectable, especially for someone young like that. So he's obviously going to slide in behind Wayne Gallman, who will be making the start. Gallman has showed that he is a capable running back when on the field for the Giants. Before there was anyone called Saquon Barkley on the team, Wayne Gallman was getting most of the carries. In 2017 was obviously his rookie season and his best season. He carried the ball 111 times for 476 yards, and he actually added 34 receptions for 193 yards. Thus far in his career, he has averaged 4.3 yards per carry, which is very respectable. Those are the type of numbers that we're going to need this Sunday if we want to get out against Washington with a win. Obviously, everything has changed. You know, the way that a team game plans for the Giants is completely different now. Usually heavily focused on stopping the run when Saquon Barkley's on the field and allowing Eli Manning to throw the football, whereas we know that's where a team believes that they can beat us. But now, of course, the combination of Barkley being injured and Daniel Jones now being the starter, everything has changed. Jones has showed that he is very capable of throwing the football, which is why I believe the game plan now is to slow him down and clog up those passing lanes. I believe they want to be beat by the run if they get beat at all. So that's why we're going to need guys like Gallman and Hilliman to really step it up. Now, the fact that the Giants did not sign a running back to replace Saquon for the meantime shows a lot of faith in Hilliman, but I believe if the rushing game suffers and no big performances come out, the Giants may look into those free agent options. A combination of Gallman and Hilliman being effective in the run game is going to be key. So they can set up the pass, which will assist with number 2, Daniel Jones. Jones not number 1 this week because I believe we have a bigger issue and a much larger thing that we need to look out for against Washington. But nonetheless, he is number 2 this week for good and bad reasons. Starting with the negative so we can end with a high note on Daniel Jones, I'm going to be watching to see if he critiqued and improved on his ball security from week 3. Beyond ball security, his pocket awareness as well. He seems just so cool, calm, and collected in the pocket. Maybe too calm and collected, especially when the pocket's beginning to close around him. His reactions were slightly late. He wasn't quick to get out of his pocket. He was just so comfortable there, and it resulted in him taking hits and on occasion fumbling the football. Obviously, as I mentioned, it wasn't all on him, as his offensive line did fail him on numerous times last week. But Jones still needs to learn better ball security skills when defenders are approaching him. Fumbles have been an issue both last week and in preseason, so I just hope that he's worked on that awareness, worked on the ball security issues, and shows a better performance in that aspect of the game in week number 4. But moving on from the negative, I'm very excited to watch Daniel Jones's encore, this time in front of the home crowd. Obviously a lights-out performance last week, rushing for 2 touchdowns, passing for 2 more, 2 receivers with over 100 yards for the Giants, which is just, I can't remember the last time that's happened. So obviously a very good performance. I'm excited to see what he does next. Especially now without the constant threat of the run, which Saquon Barkley brought to the ball game. I want to see how Jones is able to pick apart this Washington defense. Now, of course, with Washington, outside of the threats on defense that I already mentioned in Matt Ioannidis, Ryan Kerrigan, and of course the rookie Sweat, they have other guys that we need to be very cautious of on defense. One of them we obviously as Giants fans know very well. Landon Collins, of course, now playing for Washington. A lot of criticism coming his way, seeing as how to this point this season, no forced fumbles, no interceptions, nothing huge jumping out to you on the box score. But we all know the player that he is. He, I believe, had 8 total tackles last week against the Bears for Washington, and he's going to be raring to go when he comes back to MetLife Stadium, this time as a member of the Redskins, and I'm sure he would love to lay a hit on our new prized asset. And of course, beyond Collins, the fully capable Josh Norman will be on defense for the Redskins, most likely heading up whoever our number 1 wide receiver is. Say what you want about his abilities in the past couple of years, he is still a very dangerous cornerback. So it goes without saying, I will be heavily focused on watching Daniel Jones, predominantly when the pocket begins to close. Is there pressure in his face? What does he do? Does he protect the football? Is he able to escape like a few times he did last week? That is absolutely what I'm going to be watching for, and that's why that is at the number 2 slot. And number 1, 99.9% of our defense. I'm honestly sick and tired of every week having to stress and worry about our defense going into a ball game, and then win or lose after the game, having nothing but bad things to say. We've certainly made vast improvements in comparison to week number 1, predominantly in our pass rush, getting pressure on the quarterback. But one thing that has remained constant is how awful our secondary is. Personally, you have to believe if Jornus Jenkins doesn't have an absolute shutdown performance against whomever he's head up on, whether that's Paul Richardson or Terry McLaurin, who actually is listed as questionable because he sustained a hamstring injury in practice. But you have to believe if he doesn't have a shutdown performance on whoever he is guarding, then moves have to be made. He has looked consistently bad from week 1 all the way through. Now, I get it. He's facing number 1 receivers, so he's taking on the team's best receiver. But as our team's best cornerback, we're expecting you to shut him down at least once. He was dominated by Cooper against Dallas. dominated by a combination of Beasley and John Brown against Buffalo, and then Mike Evans absolutely embarrassed him last week. I did throw some criticism DeAndre Baker's way in terms of effort and what he's putting on film, but he has shown vast improvements and he looked much better last week against Tampa Bay. As I just said though, Jornas has not. Our number one corner is getting consistently demolished, and it's got to come to a point where you look around and you ask, who's the next man up? Another thing I hate getting into every single video is harping on the fact that it is ridiculous that one of the most standout corners that we showed during preseason and in team practices, Corey Ballentine, is limited to 20% of the overall snaps, and he's predominantly only used on kick return. I could be completely wrong, and every statement I've ever made about him in the past, 20 videos might be looked at as complete idiocracy one day, but you got to give the kid a shot. Ballentine, how could he do worse is what I'm trying to get at. How could he possibly do worse than what Jonas Jenkins has put on film? Our defense statistically is the worst in the NFL. Literally the worst in the NFL. Washington is actually 9th in the league in passing yards per game with 288.3, and our defense is ranked 32nd worst in the league, giving up 332.3 yards per game. That is a bad combination. A top 10 passing offense versus the worst defense in regards to guarding against the pass. If that's not bad enough, I'll do you one better. All we can do is thank the Lord above for the Miami Dolphins, because we are currently the second worst defense in overall rating at a 124.9. Without the Miami Dolphins, we would be the worst in the league, and you've seen the scores that they've been allowing teams to put up on them. Our defense needs to put on a statement performance against the Redskins this weekend. If a guy, like I mentioned, Terry McLaurin, isn't playing because of the hamstring, and another guy like Jordan Reed, a tight end who has obviously dominated us for years, is also not playing because of what honestly seems like his 100th concussion in the league, then what are we doing out here? With guys like that not on the field, we need to dominate. Obviously, they have other threats like Chris Thompson, who is wildly underrated. He's putting on a pretty good season this year. He's a versatile dual threat running back who really sets up the rest of the offense very nicely, whether he's catching passes out of the backfield or running the ball. Obviously, we're also going to be hampered at the interior linebacker position. Alec Ogletree and Tay Davis both did not practice this week. So it does look like it is going to be the rookie Ryan Connolly matching up with David Mayo at interior linebacker. Good news, though, is we do get Lorenzo Carter back, who was kind of hampered by injury earlier this week. But that's really not the issue. As we know, and as it's been all season, our secondary has been letting us down. And that is why, once again, in the top 5 things, this time at number 1. But that's all I got for you guys today. That is the top 5 things that I'm going to be looking out for in the Redskins versus the Giants. Be on the lookout for the rest of my postings. As you know, I will be doing the game day preview. That will be up tomorrow, as well as my post-game review and reactions as always. Don't forget, I am doing the giveaway for this David Mayo autograph rookie card, 3 of 5 made with the purple border. Very exclusive card, so make sure to check out on my Twitter for that giveaway. Most likely, at some point, I will be posting yet another episode of either Giants franchise or QB1 with Shane Falco, so be on the lookout for that as well. But other than that, enjoy the rest of the game Sunday. Go Giants, and I'll see you in the next one, guys.